Welcome to It Takes a Family podcast, a podcast that helps take parenting from desperation to hope. I'm one of your hosts, Andy.
Hey, and I'm your co-host, Kelly. Once a week, we'll highlight experts and other parents like you who have been in the trenches of parenting, bringing hard lessons learned and insights on how to navigate even the most difficult of family circumstances.
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a balance of nurture and structure. We've been kind of overviewing the Eagle Ranch approach to family healing. So we've looked at a couple of different things. But overall, we will look at your story, family dynamics, a balance of nurture and structure, a child's unique gifts, and community. And they said I wouldn't remember all five, and I did.
Andy, congratulations.
And the balance and structure, to me, it's maybe the most practical. So like when people think of, hey, what do you do at Eagle Ranch? Or like, how do I help my kid? This is really where it is. The other family system stuff, if you've been listening, it's kind of a little bit more like you have to think about your family of origin, all that stuff. But I'm excited today to kind of jump into some of the practical of what we talk about and so forth at Eagle Ranch. And we are... we're welcomed by John Cunnings, a good friend, and I'm really excited that you're here, John.
Glad to be here.
Awesome.
John, thank you for being with us. And just for our listeners, so John, I know he looks really young. Everybody here looks really young, right? But John is in his 21st year.
21st.
Serving, working here at the ranch. Started out right out of college as a program assistant, which for those of you who don't, a program assistant is a college-age person that is in the homes working with the children. So it's a little more, not peer-to-peer, but better than the house parents who
cooler.
are cooler.
I think
That
of it
was
as
the word
cooler.
I was looking for.
They're cooler.
But then you spent several seasons as a house parent here. So you actually ran homes, led homes on both the girls and boys side. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then more recently, last how many years? 5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years.
John is our boys program director.
Yes.
So he oversees the boys side of the program and works with the house parents, the counselors, the program assistants, the school, and just helping us bring whole family healing to our kids and families that we serve.
So, I mean, the way I think about it in some ways with John is like he has the greatest education in our choice consequence model because it's like you've taught it, you've lived it, you've experienced it. It's really cool.
We're so glad. We're so glad to have you, John.
We're so
Thanks.
glad. We're so glad. All right, so here's where we love to start on the podcast. We always like to start with this question, but tell me about the family you grew up in, and tell me about the family you lead now.
Yeah, I grew up in a military family. So my dad was a Marine Corps officer for close to 30 years. I think it was over 30 years, actually. He'll correct me when he listens to this. So we had a lot of movement as a family, different bases we lived on, a lot of change, a lot of meeting new people. He was deployed a lot. So, when he was deployed, I had 2 sisters, an older and a younger sister. And my mother, she was a stay-at-home mom, she's a very nurturing person, as we'll get to talking about that. But she was very much like she held us together, supported us. I just remember having an adventurous childhood because bases were a very fun place to live because you had a lot of freedom there. And it was a very safe place. You're surrounded by a bunch of soldiers, like... Who's going to do something, so it's like this kind of neighborhood where you don't lock your doors and you're just friends with everybody. And
that's awesome.
Fun childhood. I just have a lot of fond memories from that. And I have a family of my own. I'm a single parent, have 2 girls. They're moving into the teenage years. One's about to be 15 and one's 12. And I enjoy, being a father, being a dad.
They're awesome.
They're great girls. So
excellent.
Yeah.
All right, and our kids are good friends. It's fun.
Yeah.
The Nelson Cunnings crew. It's a serious. It's a gang of children almost.
It's a gang.
But
healthy gang. Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about balance of nurture and structure today. So just kind of help define for us in some ways what what do we mean when we talk about a balance of nurture and structure?
Yeah, we're talking about just a balance of how do we want to approach parenting. So as in nurture, we mean in a loving, connected way. Much like you would, even when you hear the word nurture, you think of like a mother holding a child or something. You get this sense of like comfort and connection and love that is pretty obvious when you think of like, oh yeah, parents need to love their kids.
Right.
And so that's where the nurture comes from. And then the structure comes from like boundaries. Like what are you trying to teach your kids, either to keep them safe, teach them about life? Some people might call structure rules. So striking a balance of those two components.
So if we're thinking about like the healthiest version of a
Yeah.
family, it has both of those things kind of working in concert together.
Yes.
That there are boundaries and rules, but there's also love and nurture and
Yeah, and it's not really black and white, like or it's like not like one of the other. I think of it almost like a tie-dye shirt, where it's like you've got both of these things, and they're kind of spun up together in a healthy way that creates something that, if you like tie-dye, it's kind of cool. And you're nurturing in a structured way, and you might be kind of within your structure. You can do it in a nurturing way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're at Eagle Ranch for any length of time and around the children at all, before too long, you start hearing about choices and consequences. We call it the choice consequence model. It's not like some revolutionary model. Choices and consequences have existed since the Garden of Eden.
Right.
I think it's something that we use. It's pretty helpful and beneficial. So this is really kind of the structure, the meat of our behavior modification. It sounds really like bad, but so help define kind of what we mean by choices and consequences and how that's applied in the homes and how we teach that to families.
Yeah, so choice and consequences is really a method, a method to try and strike this balance with nurture and structure. But really, under that, even we have a foundation of coming at choice and consequence with the thought of training. And I think a lot of training and discipline, it comes from a biblical model.
Okay.
You have the Proverbs 22:6 that's train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And there's other verses that talk about, fathers, don't exasperate your children, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. There's even a third verse in Hebrews 12:9 where it talks about discipline not being pleasant at the time, but it produces a harvest of righteousness for those who've been trained by it. So you have this like, they keep saying training over and over, but you can also like interchange the word discipline into training. And a lot of people think of discipline in negative context. They think of, I need to create this pain for discipline. But there was somebody that clarified it, and I'll get to the choice consequence because I'm building on it. I'm building on it. That like he connected the dots in such a cool way for me is Dallas Willard. Okay. Excellent, teacher, philosophy professor, but could put things in such simple concepts. So he talks about training, and I haven't committed this to memory yet, as an activity within our power that enables us to do what we cannot do by direct effort. So something we can do, an activity within our power that enables us to do something we can't do by direct effort. So if it's like, let's take a side.
He's
like,
smart.
Let's think of like an example that's not even parenting related. Yeah. It's like music. So if I had a piano in front of me, which I know your son plays music and your daughter too, and before they'd even touched a piano, and you're like, you have the freedom to play this piano, it'd be like bing bong, dun, 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 dun. It would sound horrible, but if you gave them an activity every day, or something within their power
that they could do, like, hey, you're going to practice for 15 minutes and do these little scales. Over a couple of years, they would be masters of the piano. And so that's kind of what choice and consequence, how I'm like wrapping that in, is
is an activity within your power is to put these little choices in your kids' life that enables them to do something that they can't do by direct effort, which is something you're trying to instill in your kids that might equate to like playing a piano kind of thing.
Yeah. I was thinking
so-
like things, I don't know if this is what you're kind of thinking, but like things like self-control or
like a big
discipline
concept.
to patience of waiting or payoffs are coming
or like responsibility. Like, how, if you were to put a huge responsibility in front of a child, they're going to just mess that up royally. But if you figure out how to like break it down into like smaller things,
Little tiny responsibilities. Ultimately,
over time.
little tiny choices, little tiny things, and with, some gracious correction, they'll get there where they'll be able to be responsible for the bigger things,
That's good, John.
All right, so we have this base of training.
Training.
Versus control. I know I've heard that a lot of times around the ranch. Like, so that the training is maybe against the idea of controlling the child, because oftentimes we just do what I say because I say it, but really we're keeping the long game in mind. So training, but then how does it sort of practically work out within choices and consequences?
So I think the training versus controlling, I think that's I'd say the controlling is our kind of our default. Like when we struggle with our kids, we just want them to do what we want them to do. We want them to do it, and we want to kind of just get that done as quickly as
I've never felt
possible.
this, but thank you for saying this.
You know-
I've never wanted to control my children, but I understand what other people like Kelly might experience.
Yeah. So that's where choice and consequence comes in, because it gives you that ability to like, let me prepare something so that when I'm emotionally like hooked as a parent, I can go to something that's already kind of set up.
Yeah.
My kid has this choice of, whatever, when they cuss in the house or something like that there's something set up
Already in advance. Yes.
And that might be your trigger as a parent of like, when my child says that thing, so it gives you that ability to stay calm and to just give a consequence and in a calm way.
Can you, this has been one of the biggest things that has helped me in my parenting,
cool.
but I would love for you to give an example of what a setup might look like.
Sure. Yeah. So we kind of break it down into steps. So first step being identify your conviction. So that's the first step, that you've got to kind of like get some coffee, find a quiet place, talk to your spouse, like what matters to us as parents. And that might take a little while, where if it's education, if it's like something like responsibility or trust or
respect,
like, what are those big things, or like respect, you've got to figure out, like, at the end of the day of this parenting journey, what do I want my child to walk into this world with, and those are some big goals, but those are really important because that is usually what we parent out of, is we want our child to find those things, but we just want it now.
And we want all of it now.
Yeah, and we want all of it now. But it really just takes time to practice.
Do you recommend, like, for them to almost even prioritize? Like, do you let's just pick two things?
Start small. Start with maybe kind of the most important thing, like kind of the main thing. And it can really be anything, but you got to figure out what that is. Second.
All right, let's go back for a second. So if we're using the example of cussing in the house, that is conviction in my home. We're not going to use inappropriate language in our home. So
but outside's okay.
Yeah. So
curious.
Our kids aren't going to use inappropriate language. Maybe that's,
And so your conviction, if it's like cussing in the house, that's usually I'm using my words to hurt somebody else, or something like that.
Okay.
So that might be your conviction, is I want my children to not hurt people with their words.
Okay, cool. All right,
okay,
so that's our conviction.
That's why John's the expert.
That's helpful. All right, so step 2, I like it.
Yeah. So step 2 is try and think of behaviors that would lead that child to a conviction. So, back to the piano. What are the little tiny things that you're going to try and practice that leads them to having a restraint when they want to say that thing?
Okay.
And so you've got to figure out like what kind of behavior, am I trying to instill? And that a lot of that's, if it's restraint, maybe some self-control.
Okay.
Maybe, and then third is really you need to set up, that's where the choices and consequences come in.
Okay.
So you're setting up clear choices. Like if you choose to use your words to hurt people, or if you want to be specific in the words, they're going to be like, oh, you said it.
Yeah.
So you gotta figure out how to say that. And then you set up consequences that are simple, reasonable, and enforceable.
Simple, reasonable, enforceable.
You definitely need some examples.
Yeah. So ones that are and you want it to be something, a consequence that really as a parent you want to enforce. Because if it's something that is just like, oh, I'm gonna have to manage that. So porch time, that's kind of a good consequence a lot of time. It's kind of like an older kid timeout in a sense. Like when my girls were young, we called it timeout, but it might be a little more shaming to tell one of my daughters, like, you go to timeout.
Right. Right.
It's like, so you can do porch time. It serves like a purpose of like getting them out, in nature, like out of a contained space if they need it, Even better if you have a rocking chair. Some kids, it's just a soothing, anything that gets their brain back online. Because usually when they're having those struggling moments, they're just reacting. They're fighting. They're, So extra chores. It can be like, that can be a consequence where it's like,
I love a good extra chore.
Yeah.
It's like
I know. I get excited. Like maybe she won't do what I want because I'm going to get my garage clean.
Exactly. Garage, take out the trash, get out your honey-do list and just be like,
it's so good.
And that's where you can be a little nurturing in the setup, which you can kind of joke like, hey, would you please just cuss? Because I just don't want to take out the trash today. And they'll be like, Dad, it's where you can kind of.
I know here at the ranch, I know a lot of times I'll be taking, folks around, just, showing them the ranch, and we'll be driving by homes and there'll be kids probably in half of the homes. There's someone sitting outside by themselves and they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's porch time. And, everyone that I'm with is like, I would like some porch time.
Right.
Like that would be our dream
all
come
the
true.
adults.
Like go sit out there by yourself for 20 minutes.
For sure.
I know you say it a lot nicer than that, but it really is powerful. Just to give them an opportunity to think about, okay, what could I have done differently? And no phones, you're just out there with your thoughts for a little bit.
Yeah. And usually for a set time, it's not like you get out there and you can come in when I tell you can't, because that's you in that controlling. Like,
Yes.
I'm going to, if it's a set time, then they know and you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it can give you an opportunity. What I like about porch time is to connect. So if something's ruptured, you can go out there and sit down and do it with them. Like if you like porch time, it's like, this is a win-win because they got to be out here anyway. And I'm just going to sit next to them and show them like, I'm with you.
That's
like,
good.
Oh, that's good.
It's, what happened in there? Well, you didn't see it, but and they'll open up and connect and,
That's good, John. Hey, and I want to back up for a second too, because I do think like this whole, I know for me coming to the ranch when my kids were younger, it was just a whole new way to think about things. And there's a lot of, to your point, a lot of front end work that you're doing as a parent, like what's really important and all
Very
that.
important.
But then also just taking that time with your child to sit down with your child and say, look, this is kind of how we're going to do this moving forward. So it's not like, wow, what just happened to mom? She's now doing all these weird things. Like to really, do you invite the kids into the story of, we're going to start doing things a little different in our home? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best case scenario. If you can sit down and say the why behind what you're doing and even let them join in, because when I've seen nurture and structure go really well, they want the structure, or they might like add things to the structure that matters to them, like convictions of that they have. And so you can add that to your convictions out of even just modeling respect to your children. So like early on, we had this one boy in our house that had a high conviction that if somebody steps on my white shoes, I'm like, that's the worst sin in the world. And, you know, as a house parent, I could have been like, that's ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, this kid's saying something matters. So we set up a choice and consequence because the other kids were provoking him, stepping on his shoes.
Yeah,
and
he
like,
just named what upsets him.
he said
so.
what's upset him. I respected it and was like, okay, you know, Sam here, you know, he says this is matters to him, so it's going to matter all of us.
Wow.
And so if you choose to do this or step on his shoes just to provoke him, you're going to have this happen. And it can be an amazing bridge when kids start seeing like, oh, these boundaries, these things in the household, this is for my good. And so as a parent, you're going to have your things that they're not going to understand.
Yeah.
But there's that mutual
I love
respect of like, your shoes, your white shoes matter
Yeah.
to me.
And that's where I think that's where the nurture comes in, because I have felt at times when you're like really owning the choice consequence, it feels a little heavy structure.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like it's all just, well, you chose this, so now you have this consequence, and you chose this, and that's true. But there is some nurture in it. So talk a little bit about like how nurture works within the choice consequence stuff that we set up here.
Yeah. I'd say if your bent is to kind of control and kind of have a posture of trying to intimidate your kids, nurture and structure, or like choice and consequence isn't going to work. Like,
Gotcha.
It's, you know, if you have this kind of like bend towards intimidation, you're going to use anything to suit whatever that is in you that needs to kind of fill that.
So what does that do to your child if that is your bend?
Yeah, I think it can. Some parents do this, and I kind of get a lot of pushback from typically dads. Is it works in the short term? Like
Gotcha.
If you're more of a command control parent, some kids do it. Like they'll like be intimidated, they'll be scared, and to not feel the shame and fear, they'll fall in line.
Yeah.
You know, but then usually you have a lot of long-term disconnection where it's like, let me get out of here under this, you know.
So when you're working with the families and you have a dad or a mom that's kind of that bend, is that, how do you encourage them to come online to just try this?
Yeah, it really has to be a choice, you know, in the same way that you would give a child a choice and consequence, you give the parent that too. You can say you can choose to keep doing that, but it may have some long-term negative effects if you try and control or fight or intimidate your child, because, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, you want to be the change you want to see in the world. So if you have a parent you're like, I'm going to get through this world by intimidation and, you know, and creating pain and fear, that child's watching you and they're like, hey, now it's my turn. I'm getting older. I just hit puberty and all of a sudden I have muscles and I'm bigger and stronger. Sure. And I want to be kind of the big truck now, you know, and you've shown me how to do this for many years. And now it's my turn, you know? And so that's why you want to try and start as early as possible, you know, trying to lay down some of those things. And that's why we go after right off is, we're not going to give you choice consequence first, because all you're going to do is use that to suit whatever you brought in.
You're saying in the residential program when you're working with
in
parents,
the residential program,
Yeah.
we want families to almost like step away from this for a second, so you can have some new insight into your experience, your story, what you received from your parents, and hopefully have some healing through that so that you can have some new, renewed applications.
Well, it's why all 5 of these work together.
Right.
We don't take any one of the 5 kind of elements we've talked about and just say, this is the only thing you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because all 5 parts matter. If you don't know
all
your
linked.
story, you might be inclined to more training, or you might be inclined to more nurture and
Yeah.
just never hold the
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
never give a consequence.
Because we have some parents like that too. I'm just going to love my child into change. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily work.
Well, it's not training. Yeah.
Yeah. it's
Well,
not
and
training.
I'm over here just smiling because we're almost out of time.
Right.
This always happens.
Right,
Like,
for
John,
sure.
please promise us you will come back.
Right, right.
I
Yeah,
feel like
I only
we're
got
just
through
starting
step
to like
3.
scratch the surface
Yeah.
of like. So I do want to give you a chance, though, John, is in terms of like wrapping up this segment today.
Right.
You know, is there what do you want to leave people with if they don't remember anything else about this conversation? Like, what do you want to leave our parents with?
Yeah, I want to leave you with just something to give yourself a little grace as a parent. So I want to call this the 400 parenting average. So I'm using a little bit of a baseball analogy, which I hope
Yep.
Andy,
I
Kelly,
definitely
I don't know if you're a
appreciate it.
baseball
I
fan.
am. It speaks to me.
Good,
Yes.
good. So in baseball, you know, if you have a 400 average, you're doing pretty good.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
greatest of
you're
all
an
time.
all-star.
And so if you don't understand what an average is, you know, it basically means like in baseball, like if you're for every 10 pitches, you're hitting 4. So you're missing 6, hitting 4, you're doing a pretty good job. And I would say as a parent, and research has shown that if you're doing this parenting thing, training, you know, your child and the way that they should go, choices and consequences, about 40% of the time, you're having an overall positive net effect on your kids.
That's so
you know?
encouraging.
But if you
So
were like,
encouraging,
if
John.
you were to apply it like a school grade, which, you know, early on I got a lot of 40s, it was bad. Like I was like, that's a big F,
Yeah,
you know? And I
okay.
think we are hard on ourselves as parents. Like, I'm not good enough, or I see that parent doing this thing and whatever.
Right.
And we just assume everybody has it figured out.
Yeah,
And really
they don't.
nobody does.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
You know, we're all like
Yes.
learning.
For sure.
And so think of it more like a baseball percentage. Like if you're batting kind of like your parenting average is 400, you're doing good. Good job.
Yeah.
You got 4 opportunities out of maybe 10 that your child gave you today. Good job.
And I love too how you talk about even the ones you get wrong. If you have an opportunity to go back
Yes.
and repair.
Yeah. And that's where it's even better than a baseball average, because if you can, like those 6 pitches that you missed, if you can even name one of them and go back to your child and say, hey, you know, honey, you know, daddy shouldn't have yelled at you. You don't deserve that.
Yeah.
You know, when you did that thing, you know, will you forgive daddy for, you know, yelling at you? And it models
Oh my gosh.
such huge things that hopefully is part of your convictions of like how to be humble, how to repair, how to
Just say
you
you're
know,
sorry.
Just say you're sorry
Yes.
and not make excuses. And
Yes. Oh,
you know,
John.
so your average goes up. You know, you might be batting 500.
Wow.
You know, like that's so.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, John, for being
Yeah,
here today.
glad to be here.
And I just want to thank everyone who tuned in today. And we really hope this episode was encouraging to you and gave you some insights that you can use. Want you to tune in next week for stories from parents like you and us
Right.
to hear their hard lessons learned and the insights they wish they would have known going through parenting as well.
All right. If you enjoy the show, please review us, Apple, Spotify. We'd love to hear from you. If you don't like it, we don't want to hear from you. But tell other parents about it. Our hope and desire is it's an encouraging podcast for people to listen to. And thanks, John. This has been so wonderful. Really appreciate you and really appreciate the work that you're doing here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, guys.